This video is supported by the Motocross Network magazine. If you want to support us directly, visit themotocrossnetwork.com and buy a copy of our magazine. January 2023 edition is out now. Check it out. Alright, welcome everybody to this week's rendition of This Week in Moto. We have a pretty stacked video for you guys today, so make sure you're all strapped in for this one. Today I have a lot of stories set up for you guys. Some I've already touched on this week in our regular news segments, but others are just breaking. I'm going to start the video with some of the news stories from earlier this week. First one being an update on Levi Kitchen after his gnarly San Diego crash. If you already saw our video earlier this week, then you can just skip ahead a minute or so. Before I give you an update on Kitchen, I'll first let you look at his crash off the start last weekend. After that crash, I, along with many of you, most likely assumed the worst, but luckily he seems to be doing alright. Star Racing Yamaha claimed he escaped injury-free, but from what I've seen in the insider chatter, it's likely he has a sprained wrist, which the team will most likely keep to themselves. Alrighty, next story is one that none of us wanted to hear, and that's Musquin being knocked out of the series with injury. We touched on this last week. If you didn't know, Red Bull KTM rider Marvin Musquin had a training crash, resulting in a wrist injury, thus knocking him out of San Diego Supercross. The team now claims, after further evaluation, that he will be sitting out at least a few rounds, which is a huge bummer for the top KTM rider. Musquin said in a press release, quote, "To have this injury that happened last Wednesday practicing this early in the season is not ideal. You prepare yourself for 3 months and to only race one race at Anaheim and get hurt is obviously disappointing. Right now, all that I can do is wait and do everything I can to heal. There's bone bruising and a bad sprain, but the time that I will be out for is a little bit unknown. I'll go by feeling, day after day, week after week, and see how it goes. That's all we can do right now." This next story I also touched on earlier this week, and that is Austin Forkner and an updated examination. It was first believed that Forkner had broken his tibial plateau and torn his meniscus, MCL, and ACL. A few days back, in Forkner's vlog series, he went to another doctor for more x-rays and MRIs. After the most recent evaluation, it is now confirmed that Forkner's MCL and meniscus are only minorly injured, but his ACL is indeed torn along with the tibial fracture. So Forkner is still going under the knife, just not as bad as previously expected. Alright, our next story is another story we didn't want to report on, and that is the recent announcement of Seth Hamaker's injuries. During training, Hamaker had a crash resulting in a wrist and arm fracture that's going to require surgery. Although the seriousness of his injuries have yet to be confirmed, it is believed that Hamaker will be missing at least the first few rounds of the 250 East Championship. Yet another story we didn't want to report on, and that is today's announcement that Pro Circuit Kawasaki rider Joe Shimoda will be out with injury. It is reported by Swap Moto that Shimoda had a practice crash yesterday, resulting in a broken collarbone, thus knocking him out of contention for a couple months. Pro Circuit Kawasaki has yet to announce the severity of his injuries, an estimated return date, or if they will have a fill-in rider for the 250 East, as they now are left empty with Hamaker and Shimoda out. The only rumored fill-in ride is Chris Blows, as insider information has us believing they are currently speaking. This is just another heartbreaking injury in the crazy saga we've been having. Get well soon, Joe. This video is sponsored by Hydropower. Hydropower is rider-owned and specifically formulated for motocross. Give Hydropower a try. Visit drinkhydropower.com and use code TMN or click the link in the description to get 10% off site-wide. Let's fly overseas for a couple minutes to the MXGP series. Firstly, we have an update on the former Diga Procross KTM rider Thomas Kier Olsen. As most of you know, last year at the MXGP of Latvia, Olsen had a huge crash resulting in a plethora of injuries. Upon arrival at the nearest hospital, Olsen was placed in a medically induced coma, along with his multiple spinal fractures and brain injuries. Since being admitted in the hospital nearly a year ago, it has been a long recovery for Olsen, but he is looking on the bright side of things now. Olsen said in a recent interview, quote, "Physically I recovered quickly, I would say. Of course, my neck took 5 months to fully heal, but I was back on my feet really fast. And from what I've heard, they had trouble keeping me calm in the hospital. Mentally, it has been a big roller coaster. I was dealing with many symptoms from the head injury, I had trouble being positive, and I was feeling a bit down some days. It's not something I experienced before, so I had a hard time dealing with it and accepting it. Recovery is going well, but the neck also affects the brain, so when I have a sore neck, I also get headaches, and that is a problem. But I'm working hard to solve also that issue." Olsen has made lots of improvements as of late, riding mountain bikes again, and even hopping on the dirt bike for the first time this week. Although his return date to racing is currently unknown, Olsen is doing a lot better and is focusing on getting better and getting back 100% before returning to the starting gate. Our second MXGP story of the day is on the 2024 Kawasaki. Yes, many of you heard already that the factory MXGP Kawasaki team is currently testing and intends on racing the 2024 KX450 in this year's series. Although the changes on this bike are currently unknown, it was confirmed to us it's a whole new bike. Everything is different. If you haven't seen the leaked footage of Romain Febvre testing the new machine, here it is. This video is sponsored by Sweet Life CBD. Sweet Life's premium CBD products are trusted by riders like Freddie Noren and Benny Bloss. Try some yourself by visiting GetSweetLife.com. Use code TMN or click the link in the description to get 20% off site-wide. Alright, let's make our way back to the United States for some more injury updates. First one being HEP Suzuki rider Brandon Hartranft. As you all know, he was victim of a horrible, violent crash about a month ago, resulting in some terrible injuries and multiple surgeries. On top of that, after these few weeks of recovery, they have now discovered his shoulders, specifically his glenoid and scapula, were also broke and have been healing wrong. So after all this pain and suffering, Hartranft went into surgery again yesterday for a 6-hour operation. I hate to hear this. I feel so bad for this guy. I can't wait to see him line up again whenever that may be. But right now, it's time to stay on the couch and heal. I mean, seriously, he's in pieces right now. Anyway, I wish Hartranft the best and hope he gets better. For our finally injury report, we have Moto Concepts Honda rider Vince Friese. Friese has remained dead silent on social media since his World Supercross scandal with his teammate Justin Brayton, therefore we have no direct information from him. Moto insider Steve Mathis spoke about Friese and his silence recently, giving us an injury update on him, which could explain the silence. Mathis was asked what's up with Friese, and he responded, quote, "Hurt his Achilles, I guess." Whether or not we will get an official update anytime soon, I don't know, but this is what Mathis claims. Alright, our final semi-story of the day is Carson Mumford. We all know that he signed a fill-in ride for Pro Circuit Kawasaki, but we haven't gotten any training footage to see where he's at. Until now. We're going to end this video with Mumford's very first training footage. Here you go. Thanks for watching.
Hey, what's up? It's Carson Mumford. We're out here in the high des doing some outdoor motos today on my new Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki. First day on it. Feeling great. Just trying to get the cobwebs off. I only rode a couple days so far, so yeah, I'm stoked. This bike is so fast and it's handling so good. A little windy today, but still all smiles, so looking forward to a good week and good times with the crew.